Welcome to the Network Engineering Video Blog. I am your host, Michael Crane. So today, I'm sitting in the office and I get this phone call and it looks like it's coming from one of the local extensions, and I pick it up and answer it, and there's nobody there. And so I hang up and go about my business, and about 5 minutes later it calls again, and there's no one there, and it just keeps doing this. And I'd actually seen this in the past, and I just unplugged the phone and said, okay, well, I'll debug it later, and came back later and plugged the phone back in, and it stopped. So I never did debug it. And it actually, about 6 months went by, and it did it again. So I unplugged the phone and, said, okay, well, I'll debug it later, and plugged it back in, and it stopped. So, I didn't really know what was going on. I kind of Googled around, had an idea. And so today it did it again, and I happened to be sitting where I could debug it. And so I did a Wireshark trace of it. And here's the invite. And so it's coming from this IP address 89.163.140.177, and it's going directly to my phone. Now it's probably hitting my default gateway, and of course NAT's translating it to my SIP phone, and so it's if we open this up and look, it really doesn't show. Let's see, destination. So yeah, I'd have to get in the router to see what port the router's opening up, but I mean, it looks like he's just hitting port 5060, which I guess my router could be set up to forward that port. It usually doesn't, because I'm using a TCP, but for some reason it is, and I didn't really go look in the router. I probably should, I guess, and see why it's actually forwarding if it's actually using 5060. And but anyway, so I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, and if you look at it, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and if you look at it, this is the phone number that it's trying to dial, and that is just odd. So if we write this out, it's let's see, it's 800 244 197 843 8031. And so you're looking at this thing and saying, okay, well, this is usually the station ID, the last 4 digits, and then you got your NXX right here, and then you got your NPA right here, and then usually you have a country code of some sort. And 44, I believe, is a legitimate country code. And oh, by the way, I did do a who is on this IP address, this 89.163.140.177. It said it was Germany or something like that, and I don't know what country code 44 is. Okay, so I googled 44, and it's the United Kingdom, and but that still doesn't explain what this is right here. I'm scratching my head. I mean, 800 looks like a toll-free NPA, but yeah, I don't know what this 2 is, and then so I started looking at more of these things, and so we've got an 800 244 here, and then we've got an 800 944, and then this one is kind of interesting. Let's see. Okay, so this is. Let's write this guy out. This is 001 144 197 843 8031. Yeah, so it looks like the exact same number with the exact same country code, except now they've changed their 001 or 011 is sometimes a dialing prefix for the U.S. Not exactly sure what this buys them with two different country codes on here, but it's almost like it's like they're trying to, have some kind of outbound dialing number on here. So like maybe if they hit something by accident and it forwards a call to their server, their PBX, and it's for some reason, then this might get stripped off, and then this would get dialed. That's the only thing I can think of. So they're trying to call somebody or somehow spoof the PBX or the SIP call server into it's almost like an access code, if you will, and that's what it looks like they're doing. So we got 8002, 8009, 0011. It's almost like randomly throwing passwords in a SIP invite. Here's one 0001 0002. So yeah, they're just going through the any random number they can, I guess, trying to figure out if they can spoof the call server into forwarding, or the phone into forwarding this number and hoping, I guess, it strips it off. I'm not real familiar with why someone would set up a dialing plan that like I could see if it was like dialing 9. So if this is a 9 and then a country code, because 9 is usually used as an access to an outside line, maybe nowadays that's too easy to spoof, so people have started randomizing it, and these guys are trying to figure it out. But anyway, so that was kind of interesting, and well, not really, but so I Googled around and oh yeah, so actually so I started looking at these packets a little bit more, and just to see what they're trying to do here. And so here's the request line, and if you notice, they're using UDP, and they're hitting port 5060. So port 5060 is a default SIP port, by the way, if you don't know, for UDP. And then if you look in their header here, here's the dialed number they're trying to hit, and so yeah, they're just using some extension that is kind of local. I don't think the SIP phones that I have care what the extension is. But I guess for an outbound, if it's not from a registered extension, maybe they're thinking that they would have to some kind of security authentication. So they're trying to pretend like it's coming from one of my SIP extensions, and then they're saying via their IP address and their port, and there's just a call ID. It's just an invite, and then check this out. So now what they're doing is they're saying, so now they're redirecting the media right here. They're saying the signaling contact 1000 at, and then they've replaced their IP replaced this IP address up here, which I believe is my router, with my outside router IP address. It varies because I have DHCP with my service, so that randomizes it. But But then they're putting their IP address in there with their signaling port. And I bet you if we look in the body down here in the SDP, yeah, see, so all the media. So they're trying to place a phone call, it looks like, and they're using this tool right here, the SIP CLI thing. I googled it. It's some kind of SIP tool. It's it's used for testing mainly, but these guys have thought they were cute and are trying to hack it up to do whatever bad things they want to do, make a phone call to whoever this person is for whatever reason. I don't know. But yeah, so this is kind of interesting. Of course, my phones, they were just, the phone would ring and that would be the end of it. So and then it would just hang up, and then but the annoying thing was it kept ringing the phones. And so I was like, okay. And I was actually kind of surprised too, because they're using UDP. And I have all my phones set up to use TCP only. In fact, I'll show you my setup. And I'm using PolyCom phones. Well, this is the PolyCom configuration for my my site, and as you can see, I changed the SIP proxies information into some generic stuff, but you can see it right here that I have it set. Everything is set TCP only. Now this is a PolyCom setup, and so I was very surprised. These aren't actually turned on, and maybe this is the problem. But I was very surprised that this phone would even respond, since I have it set TCP only. I was surprised it even would respond to a UDP packet. And here's the other one. Here's the proxy address, what port to use. It's set for TCP only, and yeah. So, and I was going to show this right here in a minute, but so this is something that you have to be real careful with these PolyCom phones that kind of caught me by surprise, because as you can tell, it actually responds to this this UDP invite, which I was very surprised. I mean, you can tell it says right here that it's UDP instead of TCP. I wonder if it sends it back TCP. No, it sends it back UDP as well. But yeah, and why it's like that, I haven't actually looked into this, but I kind of looked it up, and some other people had this problem, and so what they do is they say, okay, well, you need to request a validation from the source. If the invite is not from this guy right here, then the SIP proxy, then he's just going to he sends this bad request out, and that's kind of good and bad. I would prefer if it just dropped it completely and didn't respond at all, and I might do some more digging around, and I mean, I could always put a access control list in and just block this IP address, but I'm sure whoever owns this IP address, this 89.163.140.177, is probably been hacked, and so it's it's probably being remote controlled by whoever these idiots are. So anyway, I wanted to show. I just wanted to do a quick video and show that even though it's set TCP, and see, TCP is a connection-oriented protocol, and this phone, I'm very surprised. I'll have to do some more research, but I'm very surprised that it would even respond to a UDP packet. UDP is connectionless, which means they don't have to establish a connection before sending the application layer invite. And so UDP is very easy to spoof, if you. So yeah, with setting it to use TCP, TCP kind of, it doesn't use a really a fixed local port. It's I mean, a destination, of course, it sends a connection request to port 5080, but then they negotiate another port, TCP port, and so it's changed in the router after the TCP connection set up, and I don't think I have any TCP traces in here, but anyway, and that doing that will eliminate that 5060 port being opened. But this is something I wanted everyone to be careful with. So if you're using UDP and you know the default port is 5060, these guys with these scanners are gonna find you eventually, and with that port open to your server, they can just get it right in through the firewall. They hit port 5060, they'll go right through your NAT into your firewall, and then they start calling your phones and or your PBXs, and sit there and try to make calls. And my guess is these guys probably aren't too interested in calling phones. They probably can't tell the difference between a phone and a PBX, I'm guessing, and so they're just sending maybe these access codes, or I don't know, maybe the call is forwarded to to another server. So maybe if they send this invite to a phone that has call forwarding enabled, maybe they're hoping to get somewhere with that. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what their goal is right here, other than they're trying to call this number right there. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that this was a trap that I fell into. I figured with TCP they wouldn't be able to. Well, for one thing, I didn't think the phone would respond to a UDP call set TCP only. That's just a head scratcher. Oh, the fix, yes. The request validation is the fix. Oh, I think maybe I did show you this already, and so now what it does is it just sends bad requests because it's not coming from the SIP proxy local, and which is, I don't know, it's still kind of bad. I would rather just drop it on the floor, and maybe I'll make another video, or we can just drop it on the floor. I'd rather just go into the ether than reply to them, because if you reply to them, they're liable just to keep trying and trying and trying and trying, or they'll set up some kind of DOS attack and just send thousands of invites and tie everything up. But so yeah, it would probably be best if it just went into the ether. So maybe I'll make another video, but at least this will stop your phones from ringing if you have. I mean, this is a good temporary fix to stop your phones from ringing, and especially if you fell into the trap I did, thinking that with TCP, you weren't going to have to worry about people hitting port 5060 on your phone, and it looks like you do. So I hope you liked that short video, and I'll see you next time.